Welcome everyone back to the Creekcast episode 11. This episode is also a really special episode with someone really special. Can you introduce yourself?
Okay, I'm Maria. I use she, her pronouns. I've been an activist since I was 16 and I'm nearly 19 years old. And I'm a former spokesperson for Fridays for Future and currently a host of a podcast named the Same Podcast.
Perfect. So, as you may know, dear listener, this episode it's about the power of youth in activism. So we thought, Masa and me, what better person to ask than you? So we're going to do a brief overview of how we're going to do things. And yeah, before we get into the good stuff, we're going to go to our little ad break. As you may know, our ads don't actually generate money for us. They generate money for our podcast, and that account makes all the money for the random charity of the week. So no, we make no profits. It's all just free labor for the right cause. So don't worry about it.
Just insert ad break here. Welcome back. Thanks once again to Anchor, making our donations eventually possible with our $3 in our bank account right now. So we're on our way. And so, as Huerta kind of mentioned, we're going to start off a little bit with the importance of activism and especially student-led activism. So if you'd like to give us your take, Maria.
On the importance of activism and student-led activism?
Yeah.
Okay, sure. I believe that there's three main points on this. There's probably way more than that, but those are like the ones I could come up with right now. Mm-hmm. And the most important one to me is that we need to be active as youth and represent ourselves, because we usually do not have that representation in the institutions or the political life itself. We're often, we can either not vote because we're too young, or we're often not represented. So I feel that having a voice of ourselves and being able to speak out about what troubles us, what we need, it's really important. And the only way that we can do that, it's often through activism. Mm-hmm. An important tool, because for example, with climate change and the climate crisis, which is like what I specialize on, if you could say, most people that are in institutions are old enough to maybe not be alive when most of the things of climate crisis happen, no? So it is really annoying to say somehow that they are making decisions of something that we will live. So finding that voice to, partake and be able to represent ourselves, it's really important in those cases. And it is really important as a youth to be involved in politics, because if we're not, they usually speak for us.
Yeah, exactly. I couldn't have put it better myself. We need to speak for ourselves, or people will make the decisions for us.
Yeah, I think part of it is just part of it. I think is being very well informed as well, because a lot of the times, youth might not be as well, they might not get the right sources or the right information, and in the end we don't take the decisions, as you said, so people are going to end up doing it for us, and that's no bueno.
No bueno.
So yeah, our next point here is how we have to look at the climate crisis. Like, what aspects should we focus on, or should we focus on it at all? What's your take?
That's such a broad question, but I like it. I believe that the climate crisis itself, it's some kind of an opportunity. I mean, of course, you can look at it as the catastrophe it is and the major problem it is. But if you don't like eco-anxiety and you don't like to be depressed, I look at it as an opportunity to change things and to change things from, the ground. And the actual core of things. I feel like we as a generation have grown in a very capitalist system that only benefits from consumerism and materialism. And we as a generation and as the whole world are missing and lacking a lot of values and interactions. And our history proves that. Colonialism, there's so much wrong done. And I believe the climate crisis to be an opportunity to change things radically. If we actually take, the lead on this, if we do it right, there's so much opportunity of change there. And that's probably what we should be focusing on. I feel like it's more important how we want to get out of it than the problem itself, because the problem itself we know with science, and at this point, I know in the United States you don't like. That's the thing. I speak as a European. Like most Europeans have accepted the climate crisis exists, so I don't know how that's in America. But we don't spend that much time talking about what is it or what it does, because that's a given. And I feel like we should spend more time talking about like how as a society we get out of it.
Definitely. But I think I envy that, because at least here there's people who flat out deny it. I don't know why, because you can actually see it. But yeah, it's hard. But I guess on more developed parts of the world, we need to start to focus on what can we do instead of just saying that it's happening. So I really agree with you.
Sorry for you guys, really. I've done also with the United States, and I actually lived in the United States for a year, and I do not know how you guys are sane. Like, I would argue with people all day. I would be so mad. I know.
Yeah, I found it very interesting that you kind of you said a different approach that I had never really heard before, of like seeing it as an opportunity. That's a very interesting way of seeing it.
So like the optimistic, not sad way of seeing it, I feel.
Yeah, definitely. See the glass half full.
Exactly. I have my days of catastrophe, but most days I try to focus as a thing that can bring change.
Ultimately that also kind of leads on to the next point, which we have to start changing things. As you said, we have to start having this conversation of how to change the situation we're in. And for most people, they might think that it's too big of a subject to tackle, and they might just like give up immediately. So what would you say are kind of the changes, or how do we make changes from home?
Okay, I have, you could say mixed feelings about this question, because I get that asked a lot. But the thing is, if you look at climate change and the climate crisis of the actual humongous, huge crisis it is, doing things from home, it's a really too much of an optimistic approach, I would say. It doesn't really help that much to make things from home. But it is true that I always say that if you really want to change things from home, you should be doing so because it fits your values. What I'm trying to say with that is that if you're trying to change things from home because you think it will have an impact, you will go crazy in a week, because it does not. But if you make things change at home because it fits your values and that is how you want to live, and you want to live more accordingly to the nature and more accordingly to yourself and your values, that will make you happy. So for me, it's more of a paradigm change kind of thing. Like if you want to stop eating meat, if you maybe change where the light from your house comes from, or all these changes, that must come from you, because if not, you will probably go crazy.
Yeah. It's not a thing that you can just say like, I'm going to like put on half the effort and expect to make a difference. You really need to
You do need
step
a
in.
systematic change. Like nothing will change without a systematic change and a major change. But it is true that small changes and how you live your life may impact others. And if we want to make it at some point, we will have to all change how we live. So
Yeah.
it is true that it does help, but it is not the major solution, I would say.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that kind of does answer the next question as well. Like, do the small things matter? So I guess we can skip over that because
Answer one.
Yeah, but those are the best questions when you can answer two in one.
Yeah.
Saving you work on editing.
Some editing work, thank you. So here on our next question is a pretty, it's broad, but we really wanted to get your opinion on this one. It's how much power do young people have? Do we actually have enough power to change the world, or is it just enough to get us by?
That's such an interesting, broad question. I have so many mixed feelings on that because it might depend on how I'm feeling today. Actually, I'm a very pessimistic person. Like, I'm a really realistic person in the sense that I don't like giving false hope. I hate that, and for me to go in a podcast and say, yeah, we can change the world, might not be true. So I don't like to do that. But it is true that we do have the power to create a new. We do have the power to raise our voices. We do have a voice as a youth, and we always have. And it is historically proven that youth and college and universities do change things and do go on marches and do riots, and we can change the general opinion. On a broad subject on climate change, what I always say is that if you give me 40, 50 years to fix it, we might be able to change it, but we have 9 to 10 years. So if we put ourselves in the context that to solve this, we have 9 to 10 years, we would need right now major policymakers doing major stuff, which means that that's not in our hands. We can push for that to happen, but that's not in our hands. So the only thing we can do is to push that.
So we have more of an indirect power.
Exactly.
More of a soft power, if you will.
Yeah.
It's more of a, we can push things to get done, but we cannot do those things ourselves.
Yeah,
That's what people always say, like, yeah, you'd be such a great politician. Like, yeah, but by the time I'm a politician, it will be too late.
We're dead.
Exactly, it sucks. It's like, by the time I can fix this, it's too late.
Yeah, that's a very interesting take, because I feel like a lot of the time the conversation is that, like, it doesn't really focus on the possibility that we can't get it wrong and that we have so much power that it's ultimately in our hands. But at the end of the day, these old people who sold their souls to the devil are still in office for like the next 50 years. So
yes, that's the thing. I don't like to depress people, but if you look at who is directing things right now and who is doing things right now and who has the power, it's usually white, very old men. So
yeah,
that's there, you know. We can't change that right now. But what we can do is to change the major and like general opinion of things, and does that usually help? That helps a lot.
Definitely.
It might be depressing, but it's the truth.
Yeah, the truth hurts.
So yeah.
So when we were seeing on who to bring on, and I kind of started looking you up and seeing what you had done, a lot of questions came to mind. So I just kind of like to get started with what got you started in activism, kind of as a base. So yeah.
In climate activism or activism itself?
In general.
Let's say climate and general, I guess.
I've always been kind of like an activist personality, you could say. I've always had this major impulse to speak up and be annoying about things, you could say. So when I was 12 to 13, I started doing conferences and speaking to my class with feminism.
Oh wow.
Looking back now, they probably found me really annoying and did not listen to me, but teenage Maria had to do that. So I guess you can trace it back to start of what here is high school, but you guys are is middle school. It works different. So like my first high school years, which I was like 12 to 13. And then from that, I became a really passionate feminist. And from that, it somehow got me into vegetarianism and veganism and animals. And from that, it's really easy to get into climate and environmentalism. It's all goes connected somehow.
Yeah.
So when I was about 16, 15, I stumbled for some kind of reason into the first meeting of Fridays for Future in Barcelona, which at that point was not Fridays for Future. That meeting created Fridays for Future. So I stumbled into the group of Fridays for Future because of it. Like I did not plan on it, honestly. It just happened, kind of. And I just did not know how to get out, and now I'm here. So this kind of happened. Activism is those things where like you know when you get in, but you don't really know how to get out. So
yeah,
I'm here, you know. Happens to the best of us.
Yeah, I mean it seems like kind of a stroke of fate and destiny that you just ended up there.
It changed my life completely. Honestly, yeah.
Yeah, that's great actually.
One meeting and
yeah.
So moving on to our next question is, what were the first changes you made in your lifestyle to fit more your environmentalist lifestyle? I think you already touched on this, like going on like veganism and stuff.
Yes, so I wanted to be vegetarian since I was probably 13, 14, but my parents would not let me. So I wasn't a vegetarian actually until I was probably 16. So when I started climate activism, I became a spokesperson for my local festival. And I immediately became a vegetarian because I was like, okay, Maria, you cannot go to the world and speak for, animals and the environment and climate and still eat meat, like it's not, no, we're not doing that. So I immediately became vegetarian. Exactly. I was like, parents, I'm so sorry. You have to deal with it. I'm becoming a vegetarian. I'm sorry. So I finally convinced them and became a vegetarian. That's probably being vegetarian or going a step further and going vegan. It's probably the best thing you can do for the climate, honestly.
Yeah.
As of personal terms, it's the quickest personal thing you can do that has the greater impact. So I did that, and now I've never really gone with transportation. So like I've kind of relatively always lived a good lifestyle, like a sustainable lifestyle. I haven't bought clothes for like 3-4 years. I always say it's not because I don't want to, it's just I don't need them. And at some point you grow the capacity to say I just don't need them, and why would I buy them?
Yeah, like you stop being so
you just don't need
materialistic.
them anymore.
Yeah.
It's that thing, like if you do it because of the climate, at some point you're gonna get tired of it, and you're like, yeah, but I want to buy clothes. Like if you do it for yourself and you reflect on it, I'm like, why in hell do I need to buy clothes every year? I don't.
Yeah.
I actually don't grow much, so I have the same clothes since I was 13. So it's going a step further and analyzing and saying, okay, I may not need to consume that much. I may not need this, or why would I buy this again? So you just don't. And I feel like going vegetarian or vegan and stop buying as much as you can, it's probably the two best things you can do.
Some peace to mind, because I think we all are well aware of how much the consumption of meat affects the climate. And if you are not that educated, dear listener, we might do an episode on that. But basically the gist of it is that animals take a lot of food to actually grow, way more food that we actually have. Yeah, takes space, time, effort, and resources, much more than just a plant would.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So yeah, I think neither of us or here our hosts at the Creekcast are actually vegetarian or vegan or any that kind of stuff, but we're looking into it. I assure you.
That's right. I'm
Yeah.
glad you're looking into it. It's
Yeah.
much harder to be. I feel like it's much harder to be vegetarian or vegan in the United States, I have to say. So
Yeah.
good luck.
Thanks. But yeah, it's part of it.
And also kind of for a lot of people it might be hard to go in this direction and kind of take on this kind of lifestyle, or they might think that it's hard at least. So for you, what's the hardest part of being an activist and actively changing things in your life? Like, for example, not buying clothes every year or something.
Honestly, changing my lifestyle has been probably the easiest part of being an activist. It's not hard to me at this point. Like, I always say the same thing. Like, if I put how do they say this in English? English is my third language, so I'm so sorry, but
Okay.
if you put into a balance, I think it's called balance. Does balance exist in your language?
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you balancing out? Okay, great. Okay, so if you put into a balance your future and how it looks like right now, and not buying clothes and being vegetarian, believe me, the choices are really easy. So for me, it's really not that hard. Like, it doesn't take up that much if I put it into comparison with the fear or the maybe panic that I have towards my future. So for me, it really is not that hard. And honestly, being a vegetarian, it's really easy. Like in the first world, where like in the north, like the global north, it's so easy to be vegetarian. Honestly, you have all that you need. It's not expensive. You can buy vegetables basically anywhere, so it's not that hard. And it's just a lifestyle choice, I feel. And if you think about it, for me, I started for like climate issues maybe to be vegetarian, but now it's more of a human rights, animal rights issue. We need to like address the fact that we are feeding way more animals than humans. If you put that into perspective, it is really not that hard to like the fact that we're feeding like way more. You didn't know that?
Yeah, like, damn, are we spending so many resources feeding them to feed us? I think there's something wrong with that
exactly.
system.
It makes no sense. Like, that's the thing. It makes no sense.
Yes.
Feeding three times more animals than humans. So it's just not.
Yes, especially on the water department, we spend way too much like water than we can drink than we should. It's astounding. So
yeah, it just leads on to more issues.
Yeah,
exactly. It's not sustainable. Like the industry of meat as itself is not sustainable. Like whatever you look at, it's like you can look whatever in the industry, it's just not sustainable by itself. Doesn't make any much more sense, like the industry itself. So it's, like once you have the information and once you get your facts straight, it's really not that hard.
Yeah, but that's the thing. We already talked about misinformation in this show, but I think we can do it again. It's just that people don't actually get the right information to make these decisions. Like, we like to think that we already know everything there is to know about the topic, but there's always a new piece of information, and on top of that, there's a ton of false information used to justify your bad decisions. So it's kind of getting really hard, especially at this point in time, to make the right decisions with the wrong information. So it's not a thing that you can just, it's clearly this option.
Yeah, that's so true. And with social media and algorithms, it's just crazy.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, I sometimes question. My social media is mainly activist, which means I don't see much of the other side. Although I try and I follow so many people I don't agree with, just to like so I can see what they're saying. It is true that the algorithm and all social media is constructed and built to radicalize you and to make you very certain on what you know and what you don't. And I feel like the best advice I can give against that is to always know that you don't know enough. If you always have the mindset that I don't know enough and I should do more research and I don't know enough and I don't know enough, you'll forever question yourself and that sucks, but you will forever be more informed. So that's always good.
Yeah, I think also part of social media, it ends up kind of, I mean, as you said, it's like mostly activism for you as well. For us, like, I don't even have another Instagram. It's just the Crickcast Instagram, which check it out, _crickets. But it's really just for the podcast. But at the same time, you kind of have to get sucked in and have to constantly be on it in order to grow your brand and stuff. So it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah, something we depend on more than anything. So honestly, here in the Crickcast, we try to make as much discussion as possible and get hot takes, even though we often end up agreeing on most stuff. We like actively seek out people who disagree with us, because that's the only way a discussion can happen. If you disagree with stuff, if not, it's just an echo chamber. So we really should seek out more.
And you have to look out, because most in social media, they have a large following. They usually don't have it because of activism. And actually growing as an activist on social media doesn't really happen. So just look out for who you follow and who you give a platform to, because it's really dangerous, and you're giving a huge platform to people that might not be informed or might not be there for the right reasons.
They very rarely are.
Exactly.
So here we can move on to our next question. Masa, can you take it away?
So also kind of social media also plays a part in this. As we said, you kind of have to get a bit consumed into it, which is sad, but it's kind of true. So these hard topics that we are always reading about, climate change, the situation, the food crisis, all these different things, how tiring can it be to constantly be around these heavy but very important subjects?
This is so hard. It's actually exhausting. But that's the thing, I kind of like grown up with climate change. When I first started climate change, I was 15, and in order to be a spokesperson for my local group, I had to take a lot of formations and a lot of learning, and most of it was how the world is gonna end in like 30 slides, and it's honestly so like I've been talking about it and learning about it, and it's been on my mind constantly for years at this point. I have to say that I have to be completely honest, and at some point you became neutral to it. You, like, as a person that talks about climate crisis every day, at some point I have to switch it off and be able to talk about it as I'm able to talk about a movie or maybe a theater, you know? Because if not, it does really consume you, and most activists that I know, and I'm part of it, are really depressed or have a lot of anxiety, or most times don't really know why they're doing, because at some point you've been fighting for so long that you don't really know why you're doing it anymore. But I think we need to remind ourselves that it's not our problem. Like, what I hate the most about the youth climate activists, it's that if put on ourselves and we feel like the world is going to end if we do not do what we do. And in some part it is true, but it is so unfair for kids and the youth to be carrying the weight of such a thing And
Yeah.
we did not build this. Like, we grew up in a system that was already broken, that was already, like, climate change has existed for 70 years or so. Like, we've had information about it for more than 40 years. So for us to be the ones that are stressed and depressed about it, it's so unfair to me.
Yeah, but there's nothing fair about this situation, like from the get-go. It's something...
Exactly. So I try to not be on it, but yeah, it is true. It's a really hard subject, and if you're surrounded by it, it is really hard.
Yeah, it's kind of like that feeling of, like, after you see a very difficult and, like, real life based movie, and it just, like, it's depressing, but it's like that magnified by 10 every day, because it's just the reality that we live in, and you're always getting this information, and you rarely see good news, honestly.
Yeah, that's true. You do have to look for them, but they're there. You just need to look for them. And as a climate activist, and most activists, you have kind of like need to know more, which you could call masochism. Yeah, you could, but you need to know more. And when you get involved in climate, then you get involved in racism, and then you get involved in all of those things, and you only see darkness somehow. Like, you get involved in everything. And it gets getting worse. So what you need to do is what I do. You need to see it as a new opportunity. You know, like, it's an opportunity for change. We can change it, and then you feel a little bit better.
just a tiny bit.
Tiny bit, but enough.
Yeah, really good point.
Yeah, an important thing to touch on. Glad we got that. So, moving on to the next question is, right now, if you could change one thing about how the system works, and in the general how we run things, like how the planet decides to do things, what would you change?
Oh God, that's such a broad question. That's such a hard question. Well, I would say that we, as a population, I would change our mindset to act more globally, because we keep thinking that we can solve this locally and looking at ourselves and looking at our nations, and we somehow have not understood that it's a global issue that you kind of need to fight globally. So if I could just make everyone aware that you need to fight this together, no matter the differences, and you need to come together for this. Oh my God, sorry.
Okay.
Sorry, I'll start again. I dropped something.
I can edit it.
So if I could just make people understand that we need to address this globally as one nation, that would be great. And if I could add to this that the West and the North countries need to take the responsibility for it and need to start acting so they can help the other ones. And, you know, we've created this problem, let's not make the South pay. That would be great.
Yeah.
But that's not going to happen. It might, but...
Yeah, it's very unlikely for it to happen. But yeah, I mean, I agree. I think we have to kind of tackle it as a whole, which is something you don't hear very frequently. It's very interesting. I feel like I'm getting a lot of hot takes from you as a different kind of activist, because a lot of the times, from my environment at least, I hear that, like, we have to challenge it from our local area, our zone, and how to change it from there. But it seems like you look a lot more at the big picture and definitely more realistic.
And we definitely need to change things locally, but if there's not a systematic change, if there's not a global change, that will probably be useless.
Yeah. We talk about this a lot, like how much power do we really have, and I think it's refreshing to have someone who is more realistic about it, instead of just saying like, oh, water your plants every day, and like racism is no more.
Yeah, some people call me like really like pacifist, not what, right?
Yeah.
Pessimist, that's the word. And I don't think, I just think I'm realistic. I usually just like go on with what science says.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, it's just
yeah,
ignorance is bliss.
Mhm.
yeah. Ignorance is so much happiness.
When is
And
it?
I mean, locally, at least in Barcelona or whatever part of Barcelona you live in, what problems do you mostly see? And do you see people trying to fix it, or is it kind of ignored, or how do you plan on fixing it?
And Catalonia itself and Spain itself, it's a hot mess right now. The thing is, Barcelona and the rest of like Catalonia, which is like where I live in, are struggling with independence and nationalisms and these things for a long time. So
Yeah.
the politics in my place are mainly focused on that. Which,
Yeah.
yes, indeed, it does irritate me because they have not understood that whatever flag flies when we're drowning will not matter. Like, you can fight all you want for independence, but if the country next to you is not green, as much green as you are, it will not matter. So we are struggling with that right now. There's a lot of passion and there's a lot of issues involved in it. It's a really complicated matter. So our politicians are really busy with that. Which I feel that it's a problem by itself because there is a bigger crisis, and yeah, it's a big crisis, but believe me, climate change will be bigger and huge. So you cannot address all things at the same time and give the importance to them. That's a great problem. What else? One of our main problems in Barcelona, at least, is number one, that we're a coast city, which means sea rise levels would affect us very much, very much so. And the second problem itself is that we're a very polluted city. And although there has been action to not let cars too old get into the city and like electric buses and all that things have been taken, they're not enough. And they've been proven to not be enough. So we are struggling. But I have to say there are many environmental groups. We have IXAR here, we have FFF, Fridays for Future, we have climate action. So we are fighting against it. There's just a lot to be done, I feel.
Yeah. Yeah, also, kind of as you mentioned with the Barcelona thing, and the nationalism and independence, it feels like that happens a lot where issues just pop up, or issues have been dragging on for so long, and instead of tackling the biggest issue, which is a global issue, we kind of get distracted in these other things and other politics that take away from the biggest thing, which is climate change.
Yeah, and that's probably because we tend to see climate change as either something really far away for some reason, or something that cannot be tackled and cannot be fixed, and we just gave up on it. So a combination of both just makes it really irrelevant for some reason.
Yeah.
So it's just that combination that makes the charm.
Exactly.
So
you could add to it many things, but yeah.
So yeah, right now we have an important question that we want to ask right now. What inspired you to make eco treats?
Oh, okay. Eco treats. It's a small shop. It's not even a shop yet. It's how would you say it? It's kind of like a tiny little. I don't know how to say it in English. Taller. Wait, let me search. Google Translate is always your friend.
I think workshop is
Workshop.
okay.
Yeah, thank you. Workshop at this point. The main idea of eco treats was or clothes that you already own less boring, because mainly what happens is that you get bored of your own clothes, so you need to buy more. But my main thing was like, okay, what if I could make your clothes more interesting instead of buying them? What if I could like redo, just put whatever word you want in it. The thing is, I wanted to make clothes more fun without having the need of buying new clothes, and I love doing so. It's like an artistic way for me, so I really love doing so. So that's what Eco Treat did, and it inspired me. I don't know what inspired me. I guess I was just had time, and I felt like it was a good way to, don't like to make it sustainable, because I could buy a lot of t-shirts and sell them, but that's not the most sustainable thing ever. So for me to like take second-hand clothes from my clients and like return them to them, it's more sustainable and more personal too.
Yeah, definitely. Because I saw it and I found it very interesting. I found it like something that you rarely see, like just anywhere really. And I mean, it sounds like a great project. So how do you see Eco Treats going forward, and if you have any ideas for it?
The main problem with Eco Treats is that I don't really have the time for it. So it's a secondary project to me. Like, it means a lot to me in an artistic way, I could say. But it doesn't really have like a real impact that I could... it doesn't give me money. So like, it doesn't give me much of it. It's just like a fun thing to do for me. So I just don't invest that much time on it, to be really honest. The thing is, it's that logistically it's really hard, because you need the clients to send you the clothes and you just send it back. So
and that, like,
it's
shipping...
logistically hard.
Yeah.
So I would need to fix that and find a way for it to be more both sustainable and efficient. So I need to put more thing into it. And I just honestly right now I do whatever commands I get near me and in my town that I can just like, meet at a coffee and like they can give it to me and I can give it back. Anything that's like more international or like international level, it's harder.
Okay. So if you want to go buy Eco Treats, you have to go all the way to Barcelona.
Or just send me I don't know, send me your sweatshirt in a box. I'll try it.
I mean, kind of a shame that it's so difficult to do, but that's where the best projects come through.
Yeah.
I mean, if anyone wants to be a part of it and help me out, I'll be glad and grateful.
Oh, we can help. You have friends at the Creekcast now.
If anyone wants to, like, I don't know, work with me on it, I'll be super grateful, and then we can do more stuff.
Yeah.
But if I'm myself alone, it's really hard.
We can maybe invest those $3.
We contact our grandmas, and they definitely know how to do embroidery.
It's a really cool thing to do. I learned like last summer, and honestly, it's so relaxing. It's therapeutic. I love it. You should try.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Maybe someday. Whenever I need a break from technology.
It's really like focusing on like one thing. It's not a screen, and like just being quiet for it. It's helpful.
Yeah.
So moving on from all that business talk, we wanted to ask, what does being a vegetarian represent for you? Another really broad question. But... Vegetarian.
I don't even know. To me, it's the norm right now. Like, I don't consider anything else. I would never go back to eating meat. So to me, it's like the norm. Like, it's normal for me at this point. So it represents my diet only. But it is true that when you go outside of your house and you have to meet new people and you have to, maybe go to dinners with someone else, and you do have conversations with them. And for me, it's really beautiful and passionate to see people maybe rethinking or understanding that eating meat and what it means, it's maybe not the normal thing to do, and it's maybe not the correct thing to do. So this, to me, at some point, activism. So like you not vegetarianism itself or veganism, but the fact that you can advocate for it.
Yeah, and I think, I don't know, kind of to play devil's advocate a bit, because I may be misinformed, but I've seen that, like, for example, there are ways of eating meat that don't affect the environment because they're like sustainable farms with that kind of, the manure of the cows helps to be fertile to the floor, and things like that. I don't know. Is it? I don't know if it's even wrong, but yeah, I just feel like sometimes maybe there is another option. I don't know.
Yes, I mean, it all depends on why are you vegetarian. You can be a vegetarian for the environment, and that it is true that you can find sustainable, maybe meat makers, I guess, like from small towns and like small farmers. Those people exist, and it is true that they're, for me, do a necessary job. But if you are a vegetarian or vegan for the animals, then there's no other option.
Yeah, of course.
It all depends why you're doing it.
Yeah, definitely.
It all comes down to your own personal values and inspiration.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Next up, we learned about another project of yours, which is called, tell me if I'm pronouncing it wrong, the Sina podcast.
Zinnia. Yes.
Podcast, yeah. So what inspired you to make that podcast?
So I've been trying to find a platform or a way to communicate for the last. So I started a YouTube channel, but I'm really bad at it. I'm really bad at editing. It took way more time to edit and to film that it was actually like good for me. It wasn't out. So I'm not doing YouTube anymore, mainly because I suck at it. But and I was like, okay, Maria, what can we do so you have voice and you're comfortable with it and it means something to you? Because after nearly 2 years of being a spokesperson, I've only dealt with, like media and press, and I was sick and tired of people putting words in my mouth and people editing what I say and people misunderstanding me because of media. So after dealing with that, I was like, okay, we are going to start making our own content and producing our own content, and no one is going to touch it but you. So I was like, okay, let's start a podcast then. And Zinnia itself is mainly about intersectionality, which is something that I'm very passionate about and I love and I feel is beautiful. So I wanted to give minorities and oppressed people a way to communicate, in a way to give them a platform without me being the protagonist of it, or without me taking space out of it.
Yeah.
Because to me, it's such an important, like I could have a podcast with only me talking and it being about intersectionality, but then it would suck so much because then it's not intersectional because I'm a white female, so it wouldn't work. I was like, okay, how can I make this actually intersectionality within itself? So the podcast is basically what you guys do, kind of. It's interviews and hard conversations and just being able to talk to people, which I feel like it's another form of activism, because we tend to not have hard conversations and we really should.
Yeah.
So it's a learning project, maybe, just to understand other realities and know what we're doing and how can we be better allies to these communities.
Yeah, very interesting. And I mean, this kind of feeds on to the idea that you clearly are a pretty creative person and you like to take on different things as well as trying different things that might help you on a personal level to kind of relieve stress and anxiety, like with eco treats, as well as to offer yourself a platform and your voice a platform like the podcast. So do you see yourself going through different avenues in the future or anything?
Projects in the future?
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope so. I'm still doing interviews and okay, you're thinking I says a book with me in a chapter on it. It's coming out this April, so that's cool.
Oh, wow.
And hopefully, I've been in 2 books already, and hopefully they will let me write my own at some point. That'd be great.
Yeah, that would be
I'd
cool.
love to. So yeah, I'm just trying. Honestly, right now I'm focusing on Xenia and college because I am a college student and college
Yeah.
is pretty hard. Thing on Xenia and college. But then if that goes well, I might think of starting new things.
Okay. Yeah. Very, very interesting. I mean, at the end of the day, there's only a certain amount of time.
Exactly. There's 24 hours in a day. I only can do much.
Yeah.
Yeah, with limited time, it comes many tough decisions that we have to make. But at least I can speak for myself that I'm happy to see more people spending that time to help others.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you. It's nice.
Yeah. So, Masa, can you bring us to our next question?
Yeah. So, I've seen that you've had some episodes with. You have a podcast in Spanish and one in English. For those of you who want to check her out on Spotify, it's Xenia Podcast, and I was just kind of curious into exploring what guests you would like to have on, because I mean, you talked a bit about intersectionality, but is there anybody that really kind of comes to your mind as a really big guest that you would love to have on?
Oh god, there's so many people I would love to have. I have to say that I have many interviews planned, and some of them recorded but not edited because I don't know about you guys, but it takes me forever. And I would so love to have how is he called on Instagram? Wait, let me search. Her username. Glow Graphics. There's a girl, a black woman named Glow Atanamo, who makes such great infographics of racism that I would love to interview, because I need to know where this creativity comes from. Like, it's so amazing to me how this woman just makes people understand such difficult matters.
Yeah.
Like, those are really heavy matters and such difficult concepts and things, and somehow she puts it so beautifully. It's amazing. So I would love to interview her. There's so many people. Tori Sui.
Oh yeah.
Which I'm pretty sure I pronounced her name wrong. She's an intersectional activist and she's amazing too. I would love to interview. There's so many people I would love to interview, which is great because it means that the podcast will run forever.
Yeah.
So hopefully I will have many interesting people, but the only people that we usually wouldn't hear from, there's also indigenous activists that will come and talk to us, and that I would not hear from in any other context, because I'm from Spain. It's not it's not a usual thing that I can talk to an indigenous person. So to me, it's such an opportunity, and honestly, anyone, I pretty much listen to anyone that talks to me. So there's so many people I would love to have.
Yeah, I mean, sounds great. Let's hope you get all of them on.
please, hi, if you're listening to this, please contact
Well, why
me.
wouldn't they?
I would
Why
be
wouldn't
glad to
they?
have you.
Yeah. So basically, after talking about your guest, we wanted to ask what activists do you see as a true inspiration and influence?
There's a girl named. Well, she's a woman. I don't know why I say girl. I say girl to like people because like I love them and like they're a friend to me. There's this beautiful indigenous woman named Elena Gualinga, which I adore and I love, and she's such an amazing activist. She has founded Polluters Out, which is a platform that gets polluter companies out of thing, and we need that. And I don't know, everything about her just gives me a very earth grounded I love, and I don't know. Elena, can you be my friend? That'd be amazing.
Yeah, small pause here. Sorry if I'm asking like questions again, but I need just to like make sure that the entire thing is okay. It's like attempt like you're like skipping bits, like your internet's not like okay right now, so I have to like ask again the questions.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah,
okay.
don't worry about it. I mean, it's just an extra seconds. So, you ready for the last 3 questions?
Yes, I am. Go ahead.
Okay. Masa, do you want to go ahead?
Yep. So, well, we kind of saw about an activist who is an inspiration and an influence. But on a personal level, who would you say is your biggest inspiration in your life?
I don't know.
Yeah, we get that a lot when we ask that.
God, my mom is a journalist and she is an inspiration. She is a feminist and a climate advocate in her job, and I appreciate that so much. And she's been such a support for me and has learned. I feel like we've learned so much from each other. Yeah, I could probably say my mom, which is like such a like cheesy answer, but yeah,
It's great actually.
Yeah, it's great. I think we haven't had that answer on the podcast.
Yeah. It's great actually. So another big question. Do you have 3 future goals for your work or for yourself in the future?
I would love to graduate, which I
Aren't we all?
It's so hard, but I would love to graduate. I would love to be over with schooling.
Yeah.
That'd be so great. Honestly, I feel like I'm such a a realist activist that I just would be happy with having a safe environment and people that I care being taken care of and seeing change happen. So in that sense, I'm maybe like very conformative. I don't ask for much, but I would love to get my career to a point that I enjoy doing it and that it means something to me. Like if I can get my career to be linked to activism, or if I can get a livelihood out of activism and work on it full time, that would be amazing.
Yeah, sounds like very, very simple yet great goals.
Yeah.
Yet very hard.
And this leads into the biggest question that we always ask our guests, one that usually gets a very, oh, this is hard. What mark do you want to leave on this world?
Oh God. Okay, guys, it's making me think a lot today. Probably I would be happy if the people around me and the people that know me learn to take a second and think of other realities and other people. I'm really passionate about intersectionality, as you can see. So I would love if the people that are around me or that hear me or that know me in some kind of a context questioning and that interest from other realities and minorities. That would be great.
Mm-hmm. Wow. That's a good answer.
Yeah.
Really? Yeah, great. I did it.
It's perfect. Like we often ask this question like out of the blue, and we always get great answers. Yeah. Honest people.
So I'm now curious of like what people answer. I'm going to listen like what people answer to this.
So
yeah.
Yeah, I mean that was a good talk.
Yeah, good talk. That concludes episode 11 of the Creekcast. Thank you very much for being with us.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure and an honor, and I hope you do very well on everything, and the best of luck for the future. Hopefully we can have you back on eventually.
Thank you guys. That it was great, and I really enjoyed it. It was a really nice conversation.
Thanks. We'll love to have you any other time. Now you have friends at the Creekcast, so give us a call.
That's amazing. I will like write you and call you when I don't know how to edit postcards.
So yeah, happy to have you here. To our listeners, thank you for getting through everything. We hope that you learned something, that you came out inspired, and know that if you're young, you have a lot of power, and that if you're older, you have even more.
And yeah, check out Maria's podcast, the Zinnia podcast, and follow her. Do your part. Follow people with a platform that use it for good.
And yeah,
thank you so much.
That's been it. This has been the podcast. Thank you for listening to the Creekcast, and see you on the next one. Bye.
Bye.